Welcome to Foam University. Today we're going to talk about some tips on how to get on the same page with your building inspector. So you have a building project coming up and you have to file for some permits. Well, the first thing you need to do is establish who's filing for the permits. A lot of times it could be the homeowner, a lot of times it is the contractor who's doing the work. First establish that. Now you may gloss over that and think, oh, well, of course the contractor is going to do it. Well, a lot of contractors may assume that the homeowner is going to do it. Make sure you establish that. There's benefits to both sides. So establish that first. Now the next thing to keep in mind, and this is really the basis of everything, communication is key with both the contractors doing the work and the building inspector. So you as the homeowner should really hone in on this. Make sure everyone is in communication. Now, whoever is submitting the permit needs to be very, very specific on the permit itself. So when it's submitted, for example, let's say you're doing attic insulation with foam because you're smart, and when you put that in for the permit, you need to be very specific on there. Say what foam you're using, how many inches you're putting in, anything else like that. If you have any other work going in with that trade for the insulation in the attic, be very specific in there. What you want to do is you want to set it up to where when the office gets that paperwork in and the inspector is going through that permit, he knows exactly what to expect so that when he ultimately comes out after the work is done, he's walking in and can say, yes, this is exactly what I was looking to see. Everyone was on the same page. So after you filed for your permit with a very detailed description, you should reach out to the building office. Ask for the building inspector who's going to be going over your permit. Ask to talk to them, give them a brief introduction, establish that communication. Just introduce yourself, say, yes, I'm so-and-so, this project is coming up. Establish that. Again, now he knows your name, he knows what to expect, and he knows you're going to be involved. That communication is going to be key. I can't emphasize that enough. So again, that also establishes if he's going through the permit and has any questions. Hey, what's this product rated for? Can I see some additional testing? Whatever. He then has a person to contact. He can call you and say, yes, can I please see this? Or can I have an example of that? You've established that communication. He calls you directly and gets it very promptly. Now, another thing to keep in mind is your contractor. Like I said, make sure they're in communication the whole time as well. If anything changes from the scope of work that you filed for, that needs to be updated right away. You should file a revised permit with the city or township and get that in as soon as possible. So again, make sure your contractor and you are on the same page of what's being done. If anything changes, get it over right away. Next thing, keep in mind, if you're using something like foam insulation, and I know you are, like I said, you're smart. So keep in mind, foam insulation is still relatively new, and some of the building codes have not caught up with foam insulation. What I mean by that is the new iteration of the building code does call for a blower door test on a new house. That is just one example of how the building code is now taking into effect air seal, which is one of spray foam insulation's biggest components, right? It gives you an air seal, establishes that building envelope. Again, the building code is catching up with foam, but not quite there yet. The other thing is, every inspector will interpret the building code a little differently. It's one of those gray areas you have to keep in mind. Again, that's why your communication with that person is going to be key. So if your building inspector interprets a code and they says, I would like to see this as an addition to what you've submitted for, or they say this is fine, you may not be surprised if you hear someone else has a similar project and may have gotten a different result. Maybe their inspector required something different or required less, whatever it could be. Don't be surprised if that happens. Again, building code is going to be interpreted by each inspector a little differently. And something with foam, again, still new, it gets interpreted very different. We work with inspectors every day, and everyone, just alone in Michigan, every inspector is going to do it a little different. So make sure that communication is kept up the whole time. Now, like I said, communication. I've said that word about 50 times because I can't emphasize it enough. When the project finally gets done, everything's the way it is. You go and you inspect, you go through your list, and you as the homeowner say, yes, this is exactly what I expect to see. Great. You schedule the final inspection. The inspector comes out and checks it over, and he says the same thing. That's exactly what you want. And you can only get that way through communication. Make sure you, your contractor, the inspector, all on the same page throughout the entire process. Any changes or variation at all need to be revised and updated with everyone. I hope this information is helpful to you. And I know building a new house or any new project that involves a permit can be a little daunting and a little intimidating. But again, like anything else, you keep everyone in the loop, it will go a lot smoother. Please leave us a comment if you have questions about a project you have coming up. If you've used foam or anything in building a project and you've gotten questions from an inspector that you didn't understand as far as you think it should pass but it didn't, he's requiring something you didn't understand, feel free to drop us a comment. If it's about foam insulation, we got your back. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you see all kinds of videos like this, and hit that bell button so you see all of our notifications. And that's how the foam's applied. Oh, excuse me. Professor of Foam here. How can I warm you up?